Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby, representing Team TENYI Games. And I'm going to be going over my TENYI list today. This deck just got new support, and what's the set? Rise of the Duelist, I think it's called. The quick play that it got is actually really strong. Not like it's insane or anything, but it's definitely like one of those support cards where it actually is something that the deck was missing. Sometimes Konami gets supports the deck, and it's like, bro, why'd you even make these cards? But like this one, it made sense because it's like we didn't have a way to search for our spells and traps, and that's something like the deck was really missing. You could search the monsters. It's pretty consistent in that aspect where like you had full combo a lot of the times just off of like an Ashina plus another TENYI or like a Vessel plus another TENYI. I'm just like, I mean, it sucks that the new support can't search Vessel, which is like one of the best starter cards in this deck. But, I mean, dude, you know, like, can't complain about that when you've got, like, Celestial. Like, that card's just, like, this card is, wow. I mean, like, Heavenly Dragon Circle is just crazy, you guys. Like, this card makes a lot of sense. It really makes this deck pop. So, like, TENYI's, I've already saw the potential in this deck. Like, before it started getting waves of support, before, you know, the other Berserker came out, before, you know, Draker Masters came out, before Sasara. Basically, when we were just using Shaman to go into the Link 3 Berserker and sit on it with the field spell and draw into some hand traps. I think this deck has a solid going first and going second. It has a couple spot removals, negate negate baiters. I'm like trying to find my wording. Negate baiters, and also at the same time, the critical mass that it can build off of just 2 cards is, I feel like that right there is like tier 2 material. Even if it's like not a tier 2 deck, the fact that it can do stuff like that, that's like tier 2 material. There's like a lot of combos you can do because this deck does play, Adhar belongs to this deck because it does play its own searchable tuner. Like you can do Haku Fibrax builds now, like with, you know, O-Lion, Jet Synchron, Aradon. You can do that if you want. I'm kind of keeping it pure and a little bit more noble. I think this deck is pretty strong by itself, but like if you want to make a better meta call and make this deck like a higher tier, or if you want it to be able to put out decent boards that are able to shut your opponent down a bit, you know, if you're trying to go like Union Carry, Buster Lock, then this deck can do that stuff. So let's get into the list. I think this deck has a lot of potential. I definitely think you should give it a try. It's really fun, and it's pretty cheap. So 3 copies of Adhara. Adhara is my favorite because it's not because it's a tuner. You know, that's why a lot of people play it in like Adamant. Because it's actually like one of the best cards for resource management. What it does is it actually adds like a banished TENYI, which is really strong. And these effects can activate from hand or grave. So like be wary of that and cognizant because like that does play around Abyss Dweller. Like every TENYI plays around Abyss Dweller because you can just activate their effects from hand instead. So like that's just like kind of a cool aspect of the deck that like even though it can play out the grave, it doesn't have to if it doesn't want to. So like Adhara is just amazing. It makes one of your starters a self-contained 1-card combo, which is going to be Ashina. So if you use Ashina, the special specifically Adhara, it becomes a self-contained 1-card combo where the other 4 cards in your hand do not have to be discarded from Shaman because you use Adhara to get Ashina back, then put him in the grave. So he's a 1-card combo that keeps it self-contained and gives you a follow-up, because with Ashina in grave, that is a follow-up because next turn you can use him and just go off all over again doing the same thing, which is really cool. And that's like the epitome of consistency when your deck's doing the same thing like every turn. Like this deck runs out of steam in its extra decks like Avarice. If you feel like you're grinding a lot, you know, that's a card you could definitely consider. But for right now, this is going to be the list as is. So moving forward past the 3 Ashinas, we're playing 3 copies of Vishuda. Vishuda was pretty infamous in its debut because people were playing this just like in any going second strategy they could play. It's kind of weird how going second has evolved now, where it's really dangerous to play a going second deck because like all the cards that normally are used to break boards, people are setting up like Buster Locks, multiple negates, hand loops, and like floodgates like Herald of the Arclight, where like you can't really like play cards like this like for going second now. Like you can probably still play like Mind Control and like Instant Fusion, things of nature like that, but like any mechanic that requires the extra deck is pretty risky just because like the Buster Lock from Dragon Link and Adamantipator, which are 2 of the 3 or of the 4 tier 1 decks. which is like kind of like dang, you know, it's kind of sucks. But Vishuda's really it's still a nice card because it bounces any card, which could be a monster or a back row. But like I definitely don't think like it's splashable like that anymore for going second packages, which is kind of cool because you know it belongs in the TENYI deck anyways. Vishuda is a level 7, which is really important. So Adhara has 2 of his buddies that he can tune into a Baxia or an Omega or a Berserker. I wish I had Baxia because honestly I think Baxia is really, really nice to play in this deck. So moving forward with my TENYIs, I played 3 copies of the Blue Spirit. I think that Shana or Tana is actually like one of the best TENYIs as well. You can use this proactively or reactively. Proactively in the aspect of preventing your opponent from breaking your board. Reactively in the aspect of baiting negations, because you can normal this, link in a Monk, and then crash Monk and use this effect to bait a negate and build your board main phase 2, which is really, really cool. That's just something you can do if you have to. You can even use Monk in tandem like with Shaman to like pop a card off Shaman's effect, and then use blue like after you declare the attack, pop, and then crash Monk, use blue, pop another monster without targeting. Vishuda, you know, bounce. So you have like 3 spot removals, and all 3 of those spot removals bait negates because you could just target the negator and it has to negate, which is really, really cool. So like these are the best TENYIs right here. These 12 are definitely what you want to play. Next up, I play 2 Makuras and 2 Nahadas. Like these are mainly names, but the red one does come up a lot more. It's a decent effect. It just should have just said the monster gains all of the attack instead of just like a niche 1500 boost, which is like super niche, super underwhelming, very mediocre. But it does come up because Berserker's already at 3k, you know. So if you got anything over 3k, normally 45 is like the max cap. But like this card, protecting you from Crackdown, you know, Compulse, things of that nature, just any targeting effects on your vanilla monsters. Most of the times it'll be spells and traps because the field spell just says, nay, you can't do anything to my my normal monsters because your monsters cannot touch them. They're unaffected by monster effects. So this, a lot of times, it's going to get used on back rows. And these are going to be the TENYI lineup. For the honorary, it's not really a TENYI, but this is the best deck to play Mirror in. So you got to play like at least 1 Mirror. I kind of just like 2. I'm weird like that. I just like playing multiples. It can be called by, you know, it's not just about being called by, but like just basically if you play 1, you literally have to hard draw Vessel like a lot of the times, or you just hard draw the 1-up. Kind of sucks. But like now, another good reason why you could honestly play just 1 is because Heavenly, like this card is just insane. Like keep in mind that Mirror, if you read it also, it cannot be special summoned except by the effect of a worm type monster. So like if you read Heavenly, what it does is it doesn't have to actually special summon. If you read it, it says tribute a worm, add 1 worm monster from your deck to your hand, or if you tributed a non-effect monster to activate this card, you can, optional. That means optional. You can special summon it instead. So what that does is it means that you could tribute a worm to search Mirror. You don't have to special summon it. It's optional. So you could tribute a worm, add Mirror, use your Shaman, discard the Mirror you search, and bring it back from the grave. So it's like you do play technically like 8 now. So like there's feasible reasons to play 1, but I still have it as a 2-of in my deck nonetheless. So that's going to be it for like the staple worm monsters that you play in this deck. The rest of the monster count is going to be hand traps. So we have 3 Gammas in the driver. Driver's a non-effect monster, so like it actually does come up. It actually matters in this deck. If you Gamma your opponent on your turn, you can reveal your TENYIs. Not reveal your TENYIs, but banish your TENYIs from hand or grave while you control driver. So like you Gamma your opponent and then you Vishuda, and like you can like Ashina combo, and it's really, really cool. The fact that this is like it's like a non-effect monster or a normal monster, either or. It's like the same kind of like niche that it needs to fill. And it obviously allows you to synchro into Draco or like Omega, which is really, really nice. So like Gamma has great synergies with this deck, and you do have cards to force your opponent to negate so that you can Gamma them on your turn, which is really, really cool. And then moving forward for the other hand traps, we played 3 Impermanents. Infinite Impermanence does kind of suck with the field spell just a little bit, because like you draw it off the field spell, you can't use it. With Gamma, you're normally using 1 a duel, so like you're either gonna Gamma them before, or like once you get the field spell, it kind of doesn't really matter unless they start to break your board. So like Valor's better than Imperm, just the aspect that it's not once per turn and you can draw multiples off the field spell. But like this doesn't play into triple tactical talents. And also when you're going second, you could still activate this to bait negations, but Valor doesn't do that. So the only thing Valor does over Imperm is it lets you get greedy with the field spell, but like greed isn't always good in this deck. So like we have those 6 kind of like the best hand traps in the game right now. I still play just a little bit more. I play 3 Ash. It's universal. It's impactful in every matchup. It might not end turns, but there's normally a card in every deck that Ash can hit. And then I play the 2 Ogres. Ogre is just here for removing threats off the board like Gamma, especially with Rock, Dragon Link, and also Infernoble. You definitely want to use Ogre against those decks. So for the Speller Trap lineup, I play 2 Flawless. 2 is fine, honestly, because Cyclone and like Speller Trap removal exists. I want to play multiple, so I have like a backup in case anything happens to the first. But now, because this card is more searchable than it's ever been, like you don't need to play 3. You can, but you don't need to anymore, because you already play more than just these 2 in your deck, because you could search it out. And then I play, goodness gracious, this card's amazing. Like Vessel plus even the worst TENYI in your deck is still full combo. So like, if you really think of it, as long as you have a TENYI in hand, every time you open Vessel, it's full combo. This is like the insanity of the deck. This is like the strongest spell. It's a Foolish Burial and a Rhoda built in one. Like, it just outclasses a lot of Rhoda cards for me, even like Heritage of the Chalice or like Rhoda itself, because it searches already, but it Foolish Burials at the same time. So it's Foolish Burial and Reinforcement of the Army in one card. That's like really, really broken, you guys. I wish this card was searchable. And I play triple goods. I'm maxing out on the consistency cards. So goods here, so that it can actually dump the new card, Heavenly Dragon Circle. So this card, you guys, I already told you guys the first effect, how it tributes a worm to add a worm, and if you tribute it a non-effect, it can special that card. Its graveyard effect is insane, because you can actually banish it to add any TENYI card from your deck to your hand. So like goods gives you 3 more copies of this, which makes 9. Which makes 6. That also means that you have like 6 extra copies of any TENYI card that you need at any time. So like that just ups your consistency. These are like your terraformings right here. And then like, which is really cool, I don't know if like there's like a theme behind this, but like the Dragon Cycle and the Dragon Souls. I also play 3 copies of Waterfall of the Dragon Souls. This card allows me to RNG into hand traps and also search my starters. It's really, really strong. It stops my opponent from like targeting. It allows you to just do a lot. It's very reactive. It has a lot of synergy with the deck. I think it's great. It's arguably not as great going second, but I really, really like this card a lot, and it's not once per turn. It really helps you out a lot. Something else that's really cool is like, these are dragon cards. Like, it says dragon in its name, but they're for worms, because like worms are celestial dragons. And then finally for the main deck, I played 1/5 of the Unrivaled TENYI. You can easily play 2 to 3, but I side the other 2. I don't want to show my side deck today, but I do side the other 2 because I think there are games and duels where you just need 3. But for right now, it's that one searchable counter trap to end your combo off, so that whatever board you make has that resilience. The extra deck's missing some cards, so I'm just going to show you what I have. 3 Monks. He's the most important TENYI for your starting your combos, because he automatically gets you a non-effect monster on field, which is really important. He has no effect, but he has one of the best effects, if that makes sense. Since I'm not playing Avarice in this list, I'm playing 3 copies of Shaman. Shaman's really important. The second and third just come up so much, you guys. Like, even playing 2, you miss the third a lot. That's why Avarice was in other lists. She's just super duper important. I played 2 copies of Berserker of the TENYI. And then for my effect monster TENYIs, I play 1 Draco Masters. This allows you to just break boards to go in second with Mare and other of your like non-effect monsters, which is really cool. So you have like Blue, Vishuddha, Shaman, and then Draco. Like, you have a lot of ways to break boards. Sasahara is like such an impactful card. It's a really, really good meta call. You side in your Vanity's Fiends when you know you're going first. You make your Vanity's Fiend like untargetable, which is really cool. A lot of people probably wouldn't even side Droplets against this deck, because like they really don't know what it does. A lot of times you end on a monster that can't even be negated in the first place, which is really cool. But Sasahara is like a win condition in itself. It allows you to grind. It gives you consistent follow-ups and field presence, so that you can always activate your cards because you have a non-effect monster. And then I have Draco Masters Omega, because he's a level 8 you can summon on your turn that doesn't activate, so it bypasses the restriction of Monk. And then the Link Kribo. The rest of the deck, I want like Yazi and Baxia and like maybe Access Kotalker. I don't have Appaloosa. Dweller is another option. The extra deck, as you see, is not 15 cards on purpose because I don't have everything I want. But honestly, there's a lot of flex spots in this deck. You can really build it in different ways, play it in different ways. TENYI's a great deck, though. Definitely give it a try. I would say in the future it could be a tier 2 contender. But right now, it's just like a everything else deck, you know. But God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. And deuces is wild, yo.